Toxic people destroy you, not all at once, not in a single day, not with one argument, one insult, or one act of betrayal. They destroy you little by little, piece by piece, until one day you wake up and barely recognize the person you have become. The most dangerous thing about toxic people is that their damage is often invisible. They do not always attack your body. They attack your mind, they attack your confidence, they attack your peace, and because the wounds cannot be seen, many people pretend they do not exist. At first, it seems harmless. You ignore the criticism, you excuse the disrespect, you forgive the manipulation. You tell yourself they are having a bad day. You tell yourself they will change. You tell yourself that if you are patient enough, kind enough, understanding enough, everything will eventually get better. But while you are busy making excuses for them, something inside you is slowly breaking. You start doubting yourself. You start questioning your worth. You start shrinking your dreams to fit their limitations. The things that once made you excited no longer excite you. The confidence that once lived inside you begins to disappear. And the worst part is that you often blame yourself for what they are doing to you. Toxic people have a strange ability to make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. When you say no, they call you selfish. When you set boundaries, they call you difficult. When you choose peace, they accuse you of changing. But the truth is that you are changing. You are finally seeing what was always there. You are finally recognizing that not everyone who enters your life deserves a permanent place in it. Some people enter your life to inspire you. Some people enter your life to teach you. And some people enter your life to show you exactly what you must never tolerate again. Many people waste years trying to change toxic individuals. They explain, they argue, they plead, they sacrifice. They carry burdens that do not belong to them. They believe that if they love harder, the other person will become better. But you cannot heal someone who enjoys creating pain. You cannot save someone who refuses responsibility. You cannot build a healthy future with someone committed to unhealthy behavior. The greatest mistake you can make is believing that your purpose is to fix people who are determined to remain broken by their own choices. Your purpose is not to rescue everyone. Your purpose is not to carry everyone's problems. Your purpose is not to sacrifice your peace so that others can remain comfortable. Your purpose is to grow, to learn, to become stronger, to become wiser, to become the person you were meant to be. And that becomes impossible when toxic people occupy your mind every day. Every minute spent arguing with negativity is a minute stolen from your growth. Every moment spent seeking approval from people who refuse to appreciate you is a moment wasted. Every day spent in an unhealthy environment slowly steals the future you could have created. Life is too short to spend it proving your value to people who have already decided not to see it. Life is too precious to sacrifice your mental health for the opinions of those who contribute nothing to your growth. You do not need everyone's approval. You do not need everyone's understanding. You do not need everyone to agree with your path. What you need is the courage to protect your peace, the courage to walk away from what harms you, the courage to stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, the courage to choose self-respect over acceptance, because boundaries are not walls of hatred, they are doors of self-respect. They are reminders that your time matters, your energy matters, your future matters. The people around you influence the person you become. If you surround yourself with negativity, negativity becomes familiar. If you surround yourself with chaos, chaos becomes normal. If you tolerate disrespect, eventually you begin accepting less than you deserve. You become like the people you tolerate around you. That is why choosing who has access to your life is one of the most important decisions you will ever make. Not everyone deserves your attention. Not everyone deserves your loyalty. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your heart. True strength is not changing toxic people. True strength is having the courage to walk away, not because you hate them, not because you want revenge, not because you think you are better than them, but because you finally understand that your peace is worth protecting. Your mind is worth protecting. Your future is worth protecting. The moment you stop chasing toxic people, you begin finding yourself. The moment you stop fighting for their approval, you begin building real confidence. The moment you stop carrying their negativity, you create space for growth, purpose, and peace. And when that day comes, you realize something powerful. The greatest victory was never changing them. The greatest victory was refusing to let them change you. Toxic people don't destroy your life overnight. They destroy your peace little by little. That is what makes them so dangerous. If someone openly attacks you, insults you, or tries to harm you, the threat is obvious. You can recognize it and protect yourself, but toxic people often work differently. Their influence enters your life in small, almost invisible ways. A negative comment here, a little manipulation there, a constant criticism disguised as advice, or a habit of making you feel guilty whenever you choose yourself. None of these moments seem big enough to change your life, yet together they create a heavy burden that slowly steals your happiness. At first, you may not notice anything is wrong. You continue spending time with them because they are friends, family members, co-workers, or people you care about. You tell yourself that everyone has flaws. You excuse their behavior and convince yourself that things will improve. But while you are waiting for change, your peace begins to disappear. You start overthinking conversations long after they have ended. You replay their words in your mind. You wonder whether you are the problem. The confidence you once had begins to weaken. Toxic people have a way of turning your attention away from your own growth and toward unnecessary drama. Instead of focusing on your goals, you focus on defending yourself. Instead of feeling inspired, you feel exhausted. Instead of moving forward, you spend your energy managing conflict, avoiding criticism, and trying to keep everyone happy. The emotional cost grows with every interaction. Over time, the damage becomes visible. You feel more stressed, more anxious, and less motivated. Your self-esteem starts depending on the opinions of people who never truly support you. You become cautious about expressing yourself because you expect judgment. The things that once brought you joy no longer feel as exciting because your mind is crowded with negativity. The most tragic part is that many people adapt to this environment without realizing it. They become so accustomed to criticism, guilt, and emotional tension that they begin to think it is normal. They forget what genuine peace feels like. They forget how it feels to be around people who encourage growth, celebrate success, and respect boundaries. Little by little, the toxic influence shapes their thoughts, affects their decisions, and changes the way they see themselves, taking away the calm, confidence, and inner freedom they once possessed. The greatest danger is not their behavior, but your attachment to their approval. Many people spend years believing that their suffering comes from the actions of toxic individuals. They focus on the criticism, the manipulation, the disrespect, and the negativity. While these behaviors are certainly harmful, they are often not the deepest source of pain. The real struggle begins when your sense of worth becomes dependent on receiving approval from someone who may never give it. When you become attached to another person's validation, you hand them power over your emotions. Their praise can make you feel confident, and their criticism can make you feel worthless. Your mood rises and falls according to their opinion. Instead of living by your own values, you begin living for their acceptance. This creates a cycle that is difficult to escape because no amount of approval ever feels like enough. You start changing yourself to please them. You become careful with your words, cautious with your actions, and afraid of making mistakes. You suppress parts of your personality because you fear rejection. You say yes when you want to say no. You ignore your own needs because you are focused on meeting their expectations. Little by little, you lose touch with who you truly are. The problem is that toxic people often make approval feel conditional. They give it when you obey, and they withdraw it when you stand up for yourself. This keeps you chasing their acceptance like a reward that is always just out of reach. You work harder, sacrifice more, and give more of your energy, hoping that one day you will finally be enough in their eyes. But the truth is that peace does not come from convincing everyone to approve of you. Peace comes from knowing your value even when approval is absent. The moment your self-worth depends entirely on another person's opinion, you become vulnerable to manipulation. Every judgment feels personal. Every disagreement feels like a threat. Every criticism feels like proof that you are inadequate. True freedom begins when you realize that not everyone will understand you, support you, or appreciate you. Some people will always find fault no matter how much effort you make. Some people will continue to criticize even when you succeed. Their approval is not a reliable measure of your worth. Your character, your actions, your integrity, and your commitment to growth matter far more than the opinions of those who constantly shift their standards, creating impossible expectations that no one could ever satisfy. Every minute spent arguing with negativity is a minute stolen from your growth. Time is one of the most valuable resources you possess. Once it is gone, it can never be recovered. Yet many people unknowingly waste countless hours, days, and even years engaging with negativity. They argue with critics, defend themselves against unfair judgments, and become trapped in endless conflicts that lead nowhere. While they are focused on winning arguments, they are losing opportunities to improve their lives. Negativity has a unique way of demanding attention. It pulls your mind away from what truly matters and redirects your energy toward things that offer no meaningful return. A negative comment can stay in your thoughts for hours. An unfair accusation can occupy your mind for days. A conflict with a toxic person can consume your emotional energy long after the conversation has ended. During that time, your goals remain untouched, your skills remain undeveloped, and your potential remains unexplored. Many people believe they must respond to every criticism. They feel compelled to explain themselves, prove their worth, or correct every misunderstanding. But not every battle deserves your participation. Some arguments have no solution because the other person is not seeking understanding. They are seeking control, attention, or conflict. No amount of explanation will satisfy someone who has already decided not to listen. The most successful and peaceful individuals understand this principle. They know that their energy is limited, and they choose carefully where they invest it. Instead of spending hours defending themselves, they spend those hours learning, creating, improving, and building. While others are trapped in unnecessary drama, they remain focused on their purpose. Imagine what could happen if all the time spent worrying about negative people was redirected toward personal growth. The hours used for arguments could be spent reading, exercising, developing skills, strengthening relationships, or pursuing meaningful goals. Small daily efforts accumulate over time, creating remarkable progress. In contrast, small daily conflicts accumulate stress, frustration, and emotional exhaustion. Negativity often creates the illusion that it deserves immediate attention. It convinces you that you must respond, react, and engage. But every moment you give to it is a moment taken away from your future. Every emotional investment in pointless conflict reduces the energy available for your own development. Growth requires focus. It requires patience. It requires the ability to protect your attention from distractions that offer no value. The more time you spend feeding negativity, the less time you have for becoming stronger, wiser, more capable, and more fulfilled, leaving your potential waiting while your attention remains trapped in problems that contribute nothing to the life you are trying to build. Boundaries are not walls of hatred. They are doors of self-respect. Many people misunderstand the purpose of boundaries. They believe that setting limits means being cold, selfish, or unkind. They fear that saying no will disappoint others or damage relationships. As a result, they allow people to cross lines that should never be crossed. They tolerate disrespect, accept unreasonable demands, and sacrifice their own well-being to keep others comfortable. Over time, this creates frustration, exhaustion, and resentment. A boundary is not about pushing people away. It is about defining how you deserve to be treated. It is a clear statement that your time, energy, emotions, and values have worth. When you establish healthy boundaries, you are not declaring war against others. You are simply recognizing that respect must exist in every meaningful relationship. People who lack boundaries often become trapped in a cycle of constantly giving without receiving the same consideration in return. They answer every request, solve every problem, and carry responsibilities that do not belong to them. Because they fear conflict, they avoid expressing their true feelings. Because they seek approval, they place the needs of others above their own. Eventually, they feel drained, overlooked, and unappreciated. Self-respect begins when you understand that your life cannot be built entirely around the expectations of other people. You have the right to protect your peace. You have the right to say no when something does not align with your values. You have the right to step away from conversations, environments, and relationships that repeatedly harm your well-being. These choices are not acts of hostility. They are acts of self-awareness. Healthy boundaries also improve relationships. They create clarity and honesty. Instead of allowing silent resentment to grow, they establish expectations that both people can understand. Relationships become stronger when respect is present because each person knows where the limits are. Without boundaries, confusion and frustration often replace trust. Many toxic individuals dislike boundaries because boundaries remove their ability to control others. They may accuse you of being selfish or uncaring when you begin protecting your time and energy. They may react negatively because they benefited from your lack of limits. But their reaction does not mean your boundary is wrong. It often confirms why the boundary was necessary in the first place. Every time you enforce a healthy boundary, you send a message to yourself that your needs matter. You reinforce the belief that your well-being deserves protection. You stop treating yourself as an afterthought and start recognizing your own value. Boundaries do not close the door on love, kindness, or compassion. They simply ensure that those qualities exist alongside dignity, respect, and personal worth. You become like the people you tolerate around you. Human beings are deeply influenced by their environment, whether they realize it or not. The people you spend the most time with shape your thoughts, habits, beliefs, attitudes, and expectations. Their words become familiar to your mind. Their behavior becomes normal to your eyes. Over time, what once seemed unacceptable can begin to feel ordinary simply because you are constantly exposed to it. Many people underestimate the power of influence. They believe they can remain unchanged regardless of the company they keep. They assume that the negativity, laziness, dishonesty, or toxic behavior of others will never affect them. But influence does not work in dramatic ways. It works gradually. It enters through repeated exposure. Day after day, conversation after conversation, attitude after attitude, the environment begins to shape the person living within it. If you constantly surround yourself with people who complain, you may find yourself becoming more negative. If you spend your time with people who make excuses, you may begin lowering your own standards. If you tolerate disrespect, eventually you may start believing that disrespect is normal. The behaviors you repeatedly accept become the behaviors you slowly adapt to. The opposite is also true. When you spend time with disciplined people, you become more aware of your own habits. When you surround yourself with individuals who value growth, responsibility, and integrity, those qualities begin to influence your decisions. Their mindset challenges you to improve. Their actions inspire you to aim higher. Their standards encourage you to become a better version of yourself. This is why choosing your environment is one of the most important decisions you can make. Every relationship is an influence. Every conversation leaves an impression. Every group you belong to shapes your perspective in some way. Whether the influence is positive or negative depends on the people you allow close to you. Many individuals remain connected to toxic influences out of comfort, familiarity, or fear of being alone. They know the environment is unhealthy, yet they continue tolerating it because change feels difficult. Unfortunately, the longer they stay, the more they absorb the attitudes and behaviors surrounding them. What they tolerate today gradually becomes part of who they are tomorrow. Your future is not determined only by your goals and ambitions. It is also shaped by the people who have access to your mind, your time, and your attention. The standards you accept from others often become the standards you set for yourself. The attitudes you tolerate eventually influence the attitudes you develop. The environment you choose today quietly shapes the person you become, affecting your character, your confidence, your decisions, and the direction of your life. True strength is not changing toxic people, it's having the courage to walk away. Many people spend years trying to change those who consistently bring negativity into their lives. They believe that with enough patience, understanding, love, or effort, the other person will eventually become different. They convince themselves that one more conversation, one more chance, or one more sacrifice will finally create the change they have been hoping for. Yet in many cases, this hope becomes a trap that keeps them stuck in unhealthy situations far longer than necessary. The desire to help others is natural. It reflects compassion and empathy. However, there is a difference between supporting someone's growth and taking responsibility for changing them. Every person is responsible for their own choices, attitudes, and behavior. No matter how much wisdom you offer, no matter how much encouragement you provide, meaningful change can only happen when someone genuinely wants it for themselves. Many toxic individuals do not resist change because they are incapable of it. They resist change because they see no reason to change. As long as others continue tolerating their behavior, they may never feel motivated to examine their actions. The more you try to fix them, the more frustrated and exhausted you become. You invest emotional energy into a battle that was never yours to fight. Walking away is often misunderstood as weakness. Some people believe that strength means enduring everything, staying no matter what, and continuously sacrificing yourself for the sake of a relationship. But enduring unnecessary harm is not strength. Remaining in a situation that repeatedly damages your well-being is not courage. True courage is recognizing when something is harming you and making the difficult decision to step away despite the emotional attachment. Leaving a toxic relationship, friendship, or environment is rarely easy. It often involves disappointment, guilt, sadness, and uncertainty. There may be memories that make you question your decision. There may be moments when you wonder if things could have been different. Yet courage is not the absence of those feelings. Courage is choosing what is healthy and necessary even while those feelings exist. When you stop trying to change toxic people, you reclaim your energy. You redirect your attention toward your own growth, healing, and future. Instead of constantly managing someone else's behavior, you focus on building a life that reflects your values and goals. You begin to understand that your peace is not dependent on fixing others. Your happiness is not dependent on changing others. Your strength is found in knowing when to stay, when to let go, and when to choose yourself over a cycle that continues to cause unnecessary pain and emotional exhaustion.